If you've ever started baking something delicious and then realized you're completely out of baking powder, or if you have dietary restrictions that do not allow you to use baking powder, you're not alone and no worries. Today, we're going to talk about a really handy trick how to turn your baking soda into baking powder using simple ingredients like vinegar, lemon juice, or lime juice. This trick is a lifesaver if you're eating grain free or following something like the Specific Carbohydrate Diet, also known as the SCD. Most store bought baking powders have cornstarch or other starches that aren't allowed on those diets. But if you know how to make your baking powder from baking soda, you can keep baking without missing a beat. So let's break it down. First of all, let's talk a little bit about what's the difference between baking soda and baking powder. Baking soda is one simple ingredient. It's called sodium bicarbonate. It's a base, which means it needs something acidic to work. So, when baking soda mixes with an acid like lemon juice or vinegar, it creates a chemical reaction that makes bubbles of gas called carbon dioxide. Those bubbles are what help your baked goods rise. They puff up the batter so you don't end up with a flat, dense loaf of disappointment. What happens is when you mix vinegar and baking soda together, it's kind of like a science experiment. Do it on your own and just watch it fizz and bubble everywhere. It's incredible how well it works. The gas starts forming as soon as the baking soda and the acid get wet, which is why timing matters. You want to get your batter into the oven right after mixing so the bubbles don't all escape before the heat has a chance to trap them in one place. Also, you want to make sure that you don't overdo the acid. A little vinegar or lemon juice, lime juice goes a long way. If you use too much, your baked goods might end up tasting like salad dressing. And unless you're making lemon muffins, that's probably not the vibe you're going for. So, how much do you need to use? Very, very easy. If your recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of baking powder, here's what you're going to do instead. You're going to use a quarter teaspoon of baking soda, plus a half teaspoon of vinegar, lemon juice, or lime juice. So, in other words, it's 1 part baking soda and 2 parts of whatever acid it is that you decide to add. Now, if you don't have to worry about using cream of tartar or arrowroot and you want to make a bigger batch of homemade baking powder and store it for later, you can. And if you're not worried about any grain free or diet restrictions, this is what you do. Again, 1 part baking soda. To that, you're going to want to add 2 parts cream of tartar. And if you can tolerate it, 1 part arrowroot powder to keep it dry. Now, again, disallow all of that if you're on a special diet where you're not allowed to use baking powder. This trick works best for breads, muffins, pancakes, cookies, anything grain free that you're making where you want a little lift and softer texture. It's perfect for almond flour or coconut flour recipes. They don't rise that much, so that addition of the acid to the baking soda really helps a lot. Another thing that I've noticed is that some recipes call just for the baking soda, and if you make it and you taste it, it almost has kind of an ammonia taste to it. However, if you add the acid, the lemon juice, lime juice, vinegar, to your baking soda, that ammonia taste has a tendency to subside or even go away completely. Now, some of the recipes that I've noticed that ammonia taste particularly pronounced are mug cakes or 90-second keto bread. I'm sure you've seen those recipes all over the internet. So, let me give you a recipe for a grain free lemon mug cake that you can try and see if you don't taste the difference if you've tried mug cakes before. Adding that little bit of acid really helps and takes it to a whole new level. So, what you're going to want for your recipe is 3 tablespoons almond flour, 1/4 teaspoon baking soda, a half teaspoon lemon juice. Of course, fresh is best. And you can use lime juice instead if you like, or vinegar, either apple cider vinegar, white vinegar, either one will work perfectly. 1 tablespoon honey, or if you prefer maple syrup, 1 tablespoon maple syrup, 1 egg, 1 tablespoon melted coconut oil or butter, a quarter teaspoon vanilla extract, a pinch of salt, and optional zest from half a lemon. That gives it extra zing. If you'd like to use the zest of your lemon, go right ahead. You're going to enjoy it. If not, you don't need to. It's just totally up to you. Now, in a microwave safe mug, I usually try to use a mug that's almost a little bowl shaped, but you play around and see what works best for you. In that mug, you're going to want to add the almond flour, baking soda, and salt, and just stir the dry ingredients together. Then crack an egg, put it in the mug, add the lemon juice, honey, coconut oil, and vanilla, then mix it all very well. If you're gonna use lemon zest, you can fold it in now, and then you're gonna microwave it. Now, this is supposed to be done in about 60 to 90 seconds. What I usually do is I'll start at 60 seconds and I'll check it. The cake should puff up and look set on top. For me, the sweet spot is usually 60 to 75 seconds, but after 60 seconds, I'll just put it in 10-second increments until it gets to exactly where I need it to be. Now, this next part is important. Be patient when you take it out of the microwave. Set it down and let it cool for a minute or two. That's going to help with the texture considerably. And after that, you just want to grab a spoon and enjoy. I hope you found this tip about how to turn baking soda into baking powder helpful. I look forward to seeing you here again soon. I'm Lee, and I hope you have a fabulous grain free life. Take care.